Well, my mother's name was Lucille Johnson. Robbins was her middle name, and she grew up in a community called Leland. Leland is a small township across the river from Wilmington, about maybe 15 miles or so. And she was a very interesting woman. She was creative. During those days, we didn't have a lot of travel. At least my family didn't do a lot of travel with the interstate highway systems and stuff like that. That was really just being built. And my mother, along with 3 or 4 of her friends, decided that she wanted to take a trip to Huntsville, Alabama in the 50s, driving. So they just struck out on like this week-long trek down to Huntsville, Alabama from Wilmington, North Carolina. Because those was before the days of cell phones and all those great communication devices. But she did it, and she loved it.
My mother was a domestic worker. We basically called them maids back then. And she worked for several families. One family in particular had a house on the beach, Wrightsville Beach. It's just 7 miles from Wilmington. They would be down there during the summer, and then they'd live in Wilmington during the winter and the school months. So, working on the beach during this time, my mother had no transportation of her own. So she'd have to catch the bus to the beach, walk to the house, and then at the end of a very, very long, tiring day, she'd have to walk back to the bus stop, wait on the bus in the sweltering heat, then catch the bus back into Wilmington and walk home. Well, before too long, we were blessed with a second car. My father's aunt left her car in his care, and he taught my mother how to drive this car. And so now she had transportation of her own down to the beach. So she'd get in the car, drive down to the beach, work all day, and now hop in the car, she could drive back. So what she realized as she was doing this was that there were a lot of other ladies who used to ride the bus with her, and she couldn't pass them by. She said, I'll stop and I'll pick them up and I'll give them a ride back to Wilmington. When they got to Wilmington and these ladies got out of the car, they gave her the fare that they would have normally used to ride the bus to come back into town. And my mother immediately recognized this as a way of earning some extra cash. So she'd drop these ladies off, and then she'd come by the house and pick me up, and we'd head back down to the beach, and we'd ride up and down the beach, finding other ladies that she could pick up and bring into Wilmington. We'd make like 2 or 3 trips every day. Before too long, the bus drivers began to notice that their fares were beginning to dwindle. They began to recognize this woman in this blue Ford scurrying around picking up their fares. So there were many days that I'm sitting there with her, watching her race the bus to see who's going to get to the fare first. They were not happy with her at all. But most of the time, she won, and she could bring these ladies back into town. So this went on for several years, actually, as long as she worked for this couple down there.